Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with BearIndependent.com. We're going to do the brief today and talk about the potential escalation towards World War III, as well as national intel sent in from y'all. Intel at BearIndependent.com is the email address if you have boots on the ground intelligence you'd like to share with us. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe, ring the little bell icon, that way YouTube will notify you when we go live and drop new videos, so that hopefully you can be more prepared than you were when you got here. If you're not new here, you know what to do. Share the show with a friend. That helps us grow the Bear Nation. And if you're on TikTok this morning, please understand that I know that YouTube is for old people, but I have gray in my beard, and the vast majority of our content lives on YouTube. Channel is Bear Independent. Brief. 30 September 22, a balmy 38 degrees this morning before the sun came up in eastern Oklahoma. War indicators are increasing as the situation heats up. It now appears that the main pipelines exporting gas to Europe were blown in an act of coordinated sabotage. 3 explosions struck Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 this week, and a potential 4th leak was recently identified as well. Danish and Swedish investigators have discovered that, quote, at least 100 kilograms of TNT has been used, probably more, end quote. That's a significant amount of explosive, by the way, 224 pounds. That's not a small amount of boom stuff. This is according to the director of the Swedish National Seismic Network, Bjorn Lund. By the way, I love Scandinavian names. Bjorn. I've known a lot of Bjorns. Used to play drums in death metal and black metal bands. Known a lot of Bjorns. The motivation for this is not entirely clear, but it does appear that a consensus is forming that Russia is responsible. President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. * has told reporters on February 7th that, quote, if Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. There will no longer be a Nord Stream 2, end quote. However, the U.S. has firmly denied any involvement. There's a lot of speculation right now as to who blew the pipeline. My gut, I don't have data to back it up, but my gut is that Russia did not blow Nord Stream 1 and 2, because if they did, they lose all leverage that they have with Europe. Russia, their war in Ukraine, Russia already views that war as an existential threat, meaning that if they do not prosecute that war appropriately in their eyes, they cease to exist. Russia has had a hard-on for NATO from jump. They felt threatened by NATO from jump. Blowing Nord Stream 1 and 2 removes all leverage over NATO nations in Europe that Russia had. My guess is, again, my gut, can't prove it, but my gut is that the Americans probably used a proxy, a cutout, somebody to go blow those pipelines, because that removes the possibility of NATO allies in Europe flip-flopping back and forth between Russia and NATO. However, the loss of that natural gas to Europe, especially Germany, has the potential to essentially cripple their economy, not only with heating costs and energy costs, but their industrial base, especially in Germany. Their light, moderate, and heavy industrial sectors are all dependent upon the inflow of that natural gas. So if it got out that the United States was the one that did it, probably some alphabet soup agencies involved, the big one, and then a bunch of their friends that are also big but nobody knows about, or very few people know about. If it gets out that the United States is the one that blew that, Europe would pitch a fit of epic proportions. We would lose Europe as NATO allies, very likely. In fact, the EU foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, said, quote, any deliberate disruption of European energy infrastructure is utterly unacceptable and will be met with a robust and united response, end quote. This is why the picture is being painted that Russia was responsible for blowing their own pipeline, in my opinion. Everything you're getting is my opinion, my conjecture. If the case can be made that Russia is the one that blew the pipeline, this act on Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 moves the scope of the war outside of Ukraine. It's an escalation. We'll see that later in the brief as well. It's an escalation. And this is the Black Swan event, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the 9/11, the sinking of the Lusitania, the Pearl Harbor, for whatever comes next as far as global warfare is concerned. My guess is that this will be used to make a bunch of hay out of painting Russia as the great Satan that everybody in NATO wants them to be. It will cripple Europe, which will force them, because war is a game of resources, will force their hand to go to war with NATO in a hot war against Russia in Ukraine. Now, there's also the great potential for that war to go hot because of the referendums in Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, breakaway republics in the southeast of Ukraine, that Russia has claimed the people there are ethnic Russians. They held a series of votes, which concluded a few days ago, where more than 60% of the population voted to become part of Russia, to become Russian territories. As we talked about on Wednesday, Russia has said that they will use all military options if any Russian citizens are attacked in this war in Crimea. Well, overnight, those three breakaway regions became Russian territory. Those people became Russian citizens. So the area where the war is being prosecuted currently in Ukraine is now, per this referendum, per these votes, Russian territory, which has everybody up in arms, everybody concerned about the use of tactical nuclear weapons, which Russia has said is on the table. You add that to the Nord Stream 1 and 2, and every pundit on the face of the earth saying Russia did it. And remember COVID? Anybody? Little flu thing we had for a couple of years called COVID? No, yeah, it's difficult to remember. It wasn't much of a thing. When every single pundit on every single media outlet is saying something, they're all in lockstep, you should probably think the alternate, the opposite of what they are saying. Just a good rule of thumb. So I personally have a hard time believing that Russia blew their own infrastructure because, qui bono, who benefits from this? Not Russia. Russia doesn't benefit from this. In fact, it makes Russia's position on the world stage much more difficult to navigate. But they will be blamed for it as a Black Swan event, an onus to escalate the war in Europe, Eastern Europe currently, Ukraine. And for a long time, the strategy has been, by NATO, to bleed Russia dry in Ukraine using conventional munitions, a conventional ground war, combined arms, without going nuclear. The question becomes, does Putin do the cost-benefit analysis and say, you know what, tac nukes, do it, because our conventional forces aren't doing as hot as we were hoping they would. Remember, this war started on February 24th. February to March, March to April, April to May, May to June, June to July, July to August, August to September. We're 7 months into this, and Russia did not steamroll Ukraine. Even when people like myself were saying, on February 25th, I give it a week. Well, turns out their ability to perpetuate a conventional war isn't what we thought it was. Which again, cost-benefit analysis, what does Mr. Putin do at this point? We don't know. Back to the brief. At the request of Russia, the United Nations Security Council is set to convene this Friday to discuss the pipeline damage. In Russia's words, quote, it insists on the need for a comprehensive and objective examination of the circumstances of the unprecedented attacks on Russian pipelines, end quote. It'd be really interesting to see what that investigation finds, wouldn't it? As I've reported on Wednesday, there are reports out there that a Navy UH-60 was picked up on radar flying in the area of the explosions on Nord Stream 1 and 2 prior to the explosions happening. U.S. Navy. Sub-Hunter? Maybe. The pipeline is only 70 meters below water. So, 240 feet. Divers can get to the pipelines. We're not talking, they're a kilometer below the water's surface. 240 foot. It's possible, quite possible, for divers to swim down and place charges, swim back up to the surface, be picked up again, fly away. We know nothing, boss.
Chat went away, I don't know. It says we're still live.
Oh.
But the number of people hasn't changed in a minute, so.
Oh, well, it's probably loading. It's all right.
That's it. I tried that.
Yeah, it's whatever.
It still says live.
It's whatever. Okay. Cool. Let's see. Interestingly, former editor-in-chief Hu Zijin recently opined in China's Global Times, quote, "The destruction of the Nord Stream line delivers the message of opening up a new front for the war, bringing a strong premonition that the war is expanding and escalating. The destructiveness of the war, which was fought only in Ukraine before, now suddenly extends to the Baltic Sea, and the scene has changed, which makes people gasp at the heightened uncertainty of the future." So we've even got China, who is allied, if even loosely, only loosely, with Russia. China now talking about the expansionary nature of the war at this point. I would expect to see more of this type of rhetoric in the days ahead because it suits the purposes of NATO. Previously, Bear Independent reported that Russia had deliberately cut off gas supply to Europe through Nord Stream 1. Nord Stream 2, while completed, had not yet been put to use. Now, any hopes that the energy crisis will abate ahead of the coming winter have been disintegrated. It looks like Europeans are in for a very tough winter. And I know we have many Europeans within the sound of my voice here in the Bear Nation. If you could send in your reports to intel@bearindependent.com, I would love to see what you are actually experiencing on the ground. Please give us a reality check, whatever that might be, so that we can get some firsthand reporting from our European brothers and sisters out there. Intel@bearindependent.com, INTEL@bearindependent.com, or you can use the contact us page at bearindependent.com. Not only is this a major concern because of war and economic factors, but it's also an unprecedented environmental and ecological disaster. We reported on Wednesday that shipping lanes had been rerouted. You are not allowed to take your ship through, or boat for that matter, through the area where the explosions occurred because of the leaking gas. Brief physics lesson. Did you know that bubbles break the surface tension of water? And when the surface tension of water is broken, ships that could float otherwise on the surface of the water will sink. That's why they're not allowed to go through there. To say nothing of they're probably conducting an investigation. But when the bubbles break the surface tension of the water, the ship will sink. So, yeah, something to know. A lot of people, oh gosh, where's my tinfoil? A lot of people think that this is a big part of what happens in the Bermuda Triangle with ships going missing, that there's release of gas, subsurface gas is released, it bubbles up, it'll literally swallow a ship up and cause, a huge super tanker to just disappear in a matter of seconds. According to one EU official, the pipeline leaks are releasing emissions equivalent to a third of Denmark's annual numbers. Furthermore, the methane leaking from the pipelines is expected to be the largest release of methane on record, 5 times as much as were released by the Aliso Canyon disaster, which is the largest terrestrial release of methane known in U.S. history. It also is apparently extremely hazardous for the natural life in the area. Mammals and birds will be affected, and a large number of seals are expected to die. Environmental organizations are scrambling, expecting the impact to be huge to the environment and the climate. The social and political ramifications of this particular aspect remain to be seen. Now, if you're on Patreon, you have the relevant links to the brief. If you're not on Patreon, you don't. You can find us. There's a link in the description of every live stream and video. It's $5 a month on Patreon. It's the best $5 you can spend on the internet. The vast majority of our content is on Patreon. right? TikTok, very little. YouTube, considerably more. Patreon, all of it. It's all there. And exclusive content that never sees the light of day. So check that out. Patreon.com, search for Bear Independent, or click the link in the description. Also, give this video a thumbs up, please. That helps us greatly in our ongoing battle against the YouTube algorithmic robots. Bear Independent bonus intel. These are all quotes. I will not say quote unquote for each one because that gets redundant. Medical. I am working in the ER and we literally do not have a Morgan lens in the whole hospital. IU Bedford ER. You don't need one until you really need one. Healthcare is not pleasant at this time. Medical device for ocular eye irrigation. The Morgan lens is a medical device that provides the most effective means of ocular eye irrigation to treat many eye injuries. Totally getting sick of healthcare. Next, I'm a paramedic in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and have been a medic for the last 20 years. I have been on stress leave for the last year because of all the bad calls I've been on over the years. I am on a return to work after PTSD treatment. The state of EMS in Calgary and Alberta is seriously in crisis. Here are the following issues. 1. Staffing is 40 to 50% off on stress leave, approximately 500 personnel. 2. We have consistently have 30 to 60 calls pending without ambulances to answer the calls. This includes choking, assaults, head injuries, etc. Guys, we talk about this every Friday when we do the national intel. This comes up. The state of medical treatment in the country and the world is falling by the wayside. That's why we encourage you all to get prepared. That's why we do the promos that we do at refugemedical.com. By the way, it is the last day for the National Preparedness Month promo, so you can go there, check that out, and you can use Bear Nation for free shipping at Refuge Medical. The best kits on the face of the planet. If there's a better kit, I'll buy it. I'll shut the company down if there's a better kit. There's not. That's why we exist, and that's why we have grown at the exponential rate that we have.
Ends at sundown.
Ends at sundown today. Thank you, Liberty. 3, people are waiting for ambulances up to 6 hours if they get one at all. 4, staff are being offered double time, $100 an hour, and no one is taking shifts. I also heard that they offered triple time for a couple of shifts while I was off. 5, our response times were once under 8 minutes. There are now no time limits. Like he said in point 3, people are waiting up to 6 hours. From 8 minutes to 6 hours. I recently did a video on the dechoker here on YouTube. Get one. Get one. They're not expensive. They literally save people's lives. Get a dechoker. Get a first aid kit and know how to use it. Because if the ambulance is coming, it could be 6 hours away or more. And yes, we do ship to Canada. And if you are north of the imaginary line in the snow, I would strongly recommend you check out Iridium, the Iridium group. Snowbird, if you're on here, drop a link. You can also find them on Instagram. Iridium, IRIUDIUM, Iridium. Good people, good products, and they are native to Canada. 6. We are putting on 300 to 400 kilometers in a 12-hour shift. 7. Medications are running out and some airway adjuncts. They're running out of stuff. 8. We've been told by upper management to encourage people not to go to the hospital when they should. This is to mitigate hospital waits. Yeah, so scarcity is a thing. Oh, I hope there's cows not out across the street. Speaking of unavailability, I got a text from Bob at Refuge. Out of stock, all SOBs except Ranger and Orange, Ranger Green and Orange, and there are currently 10 multicam arcs and 2 Ranger arcs at the time of this writing. This will be our last stock until the end of October. And so if you need an ARC advanced ripaway kit or an SOB, small to back kit, this is the last of the stock until the end of October. So check that out.
You got some white ash on your eye.
Oh, I got some white ash on my eye? Well, you know, life's tough out here in the sticks. If you haven't made coffee on a fire ever, get outside and do stuff. 9, we are waiting with patients in the hospital hallways for 12 hours. I have personally worked cardiac arrests in the hallway. People have died. So please let the nation know, do not depend on EMS. Prepare accordingly. If it's bad now, you can imagine when SHTF really happens. Yeah, thank you for writing in, by the way. Also, please do me a favor and continue to write in. If you could get us status updates from your position in the world, that would be great. Personal responsibility, man. You got to have the skills and the equipment to be able to take care of yourself. For the entire age of COVID, everybody was concerned about what happens if they won't let us play in the system. The bigger picture, which I have talked about for years, is what happens when the system goes away. If you're not building your own personal resilience now, forget it. Right? You have to decouple from the system. That's why this channel is called Bear Independent, because my goal is to be as independent from the broken, fragile system as possible. Part of that too, right, especially with medical, is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Did you PT today? Are you going to eat shit today? Are you being dangerous? Are you not wearing your PPE? Is your SHTF plan to get into as many gunfights as possible so you can steal grandpa's moldy graham crackers? Yeah. Best of luck with all of that. Right now, we are spoiled. We have been spoiled with healthcare in the developed world. Absolutely spoiled. I would also add that if you have medical issues that need to be addressed, I would do it now, because I don't think it's going to get any better in the near future. And if you don't have deep resilience with both your training, what can you do with your hands, and your inventory, your backstock, your stuff, I would rectify that situation ASAP. Food and agriculture. My neighbor is an owner-operator farmer in North Texas. I keep up with him for weekly information, and he has lost 1,000 acres of soybeans and cotton. He is due to have an insurance claim started in October, but he has stated that this may be his last season after 40 years. Also, insurance companies are going to start losing their ass for insuring all these crops. We're going to see crop failure after crop failure. It has not rained here in 2.5 months. North Texas is not that far from me. It hasn't rained there either. Security. I work in a mid-level position for a Fortune 500 property and casualty insurer. One of the big ones. The carrier is piloting new policy features that link the policy to onboard computers and compatible new vehicles. Firsthand, I have seen this available on GM vehicles. This collaboration between the automaker and the insurance company allows full-time location and driving behavior tracking. The idea of pay per mile is gaining traction with these new tools. They are discussing full-time tracking through the existing cell phone programs as well. Having been in the industry for many years, my experience has been that the information exists, it will be abused and misused. Our CEO has also visited the White House on a number of occasions. That brings me to the next interesting piece. This week, I and my colleagues received for the second time this year, quote, long-term loss of technology training. Long-term loss of technology training, end quote. For what to do in the event of a complete collapse of our web-based applications. What are y'all gonna do when the internet goes away? But Bear, how will you talk to us? Bear, do you have a ham radio channel you can still talk to us? No, I'm gonna be farming. I'm gonna be hanging out with my people. I'll be eating a sheep. You gotta prepare on 2 axes. The first is what happens when the system goes away, right? Resilience, we just talked about that. The other is how do I capitalize on the chaos that is going to be created when the system goes away? And I'm not talking about werewolf prepping and taking advantage of people. I'm talking about the economic opportunities that are presented when things get shaky, right? If you shift your mindset to the fact that people, if they can survive the downturn, if they have a high amount of liquidity, aka they're not in debt and they have cash, they're not tied up in the system, literal and figurative, those people get wealthy during times of chaos. And probably all it's going to take for you with that is to just keep going. Resilience economically as well. And that's, skill set, heart set, tool set, mindset. Do it. Do the work. Put your nose to the grindstone. Country's going to need workers, and a workman is worth their hire. There's going to be a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done. There's going to be a lot of economic opportunities. With these ridiculous valuations on companies right now, it's going to fall, the bottom's going to fall out of it. The ridiculous valuations on land, the bottom's going to fall out. So that piece of land over here that's $1 million could be 100,000 because the person that has the land needs the 100,000 because they are leveraged, they are in debt. You want to scoop up $1 million piece of land for 100,000 bucks? See, there are opportunities, economic opportunities in the crisis as well. Back to the report. This brings me to the next interesting piece. This week, I and my colleagues received for the second time this year long-term loss of technology training for what to do in the event of a complete collapse of our web-based applications. This is the same publicly traded corporation that prophetically bought every single employee, around 30,000, a laptop in the final 2 or 3 months of 2019 so we could work remotely. I take this as a sign of things to come. Given the rush to have training completed this month, I expect a cyber attack or grid outage in the Hartford area to be forthcoming. Interesting. Next, it's being reported by reputable news platforms that a Coast Guard cutter on patrol in the Bering Strait area observed the presence of a Chinese guided missile carrier. Yup. Subsequently, said patrol encountered 2 additional Chinese and 4 Russian naval vessels moving in formation, one of which was a destroyer. Next, where my primary residence is located, we have National Guard helicopters who have always practiced above our house. For 10 years, they've practiced every Wednesday like clockwork. For the past 6 months or so, they are practicing every 2 or 3 days, and they did twice the number of runs over the house today compared to normal days. This is another indicator. We also have a good friend who is in the Army. She is training currently. Now, lots of people in the Army train. She is a good person who leans more to the left than I do. The last time she was home, she was openly speaking about how they are preparing for food shortages. She said she would be eating MREs this fall while we did not have food. She has no idea how much beans and rice I have stocked up. My little ones are not going hungry, but I purchased more after this discussion anyway. How's your larder? How's your pantry? It's Friday, payday for a lot of people. Beans and rice, rice and beans. Canned goods. Buy what you eat what you buy. There are a lot of indicators, both in the near term and long term, that food is going to become scarce. How scarce? I don't know. I don't know if instead of 20 different types of bread at the grocery store, there will be 3. I don't know if instead of 1,000 loaves of bread, there will be 60, or there won't be any at all. I don't know. I do know that Walmart, which we reported on previously, Walmart has plans that if it gets to the point where it's that bad, they will not let people in the store. That's why they're putting bollards, those yellow painted metal pipes in front of all the doors at all the Walmarts, because what they will do, they will shift their model to pickup only. You will not be allowed inside the store to see how empty it is, to start fights in the bread line. And then when they're out of stock, they're out of stock.
Sounds a little bit more civil than Black Friday.
A little bit more civil than Black Friday. I also know that they are on a very large hiring kick for security. These are all indicators. Multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations do not invest in these things unless there's a good chance, a strong likelihood that they're going to come to fruition. And again, the goal of this program is not to scare anybody. It's to educate you so that you can make the moves you need to make now while you still can. I want everybody within the sound of my voice to leave here better than they came. I want you to be more prepared today than you were yesterday. If I thought this was all a sham, I wouldn't live the way that I live. We wouldn't do the things that we do. I wouldn't be planning on two axes. One, how do I take over the medical industry? Two, how do I stay home with the people that I love and eat sheep and grow corn for the rest of my days? Right? Rome burning and supply chain issues. I work for a large international tool manufacturer and we have been thriving. However, we are seeing strong signals of concern. For the first time in my decade plus at this company, we are pausing hiring, reducing spend, reducing the quantity of leased buildings, and decreasing our on-hand inventory. We have never taken all of these actions at the same time. Some of these actions we have never taken. Our factories in Europe are worried about having gas to run the furnaces this winter, and our Chinese suppliers are clearly seeing slowdowns regardless of what the propaganda says. I also want to be clear that it's entirely possible that because of the age that we live in, literally unprecedented historical growth and prosperity on the timeline of mankind, by all quantifiable statistics, the best time ever to be alive. It appears that's coming to an end. So it is potentially the end of the world as we know it, but as we knew it was statistically the best ever. The best ever. And so we also need to be careful that 2 or 3 quarters of negative GDP, right, negative growth, aka a recession, we need to be careful to not say that this is literally the end of the world. Jesus has got to come back at any moment because it's so bad. Could he? Yeah, whenever he wants, but no man knows the day or the hour. It could just be things get rough for a while. And what I intend to do, and what I would hope you intend to do, is to be able to weather that storm, however that storm is. Because if we're going to make America great again, we have to endure first, right? Resilience first, then resistance. Otto C. Fiala, Resistance Operating Concept, read that book. Resilience first, then resistance. If you want to have some say in what comes next, if you want to weather the storm, if you want to pour into American small business and American manufacturing, if we want to make sure that we continue to endure, you have to be resilient first. And it may be half a decade to a decade of what we would consider hell on earth because we've had it so good to this point. There's a lot of companies that are going to go away. They're going to go away because they're heavily leveraged in debt or they're dependent upon CapEx, capital expenditure. Well, that money, capital expenditure, is drying up because of the economy. So those companies aren't going to be able to make it because they don't spend their money, they spend other people's money. They operate on debt, whether it's private debt, money that was lent to them or invested in them, or it's debt from a bank where they go out, they have a revolving line of credit. Well, at some point, they're going to be unable to pay that debt back because their entire business model is built around debt, and they will fold. Again, getting back to opportunity for some of us, Refuge Medical is owned outright. Doesn't owe anybody a dime. We pay cash. When North American Rescue sends us an invoice, yeah, how do you want it? Cash, check, ACH, got it. TACMed, Medline, whoever, all of our suppliers. Like, we have liquidity, we don't have debt. So that allows us to maneuver in the market, that allows us to endure. I would recommend the same thing for you and your household. Have a war chest, have some liquidity. Debt is going to kill people, literally and figuratively, in the years ahead, I think. And I hate that. I don't like that at all. But these cycles happen over and over and over again. This is cyclical. There's historical data that we can look at, and people that are heavily, and businesses that are heavily leveraged in debt do not endure these cycles. Back to the brief. A major competitor of ours here in the Northeast are now charging an inflation surcharge to their invoices. So far, they are charging $45 on a $200 order. So 22.5%. $45 on a $2,000 order. That's good. That's a 2.25%. Still, that's an inflation surcharge. Next, went to 2 of my local hardware stores looking for 16-ounce green propane cylinders for my Coleman cook stove and handheld torch. They were out. One clerk told me they were having trouble getting them. Finally went to Lowe's and bought the last 2-pack they had on the shelf, which left 3 single cylinders. I bought them as well. And lastly, my semi-retired parents' AC unit finally bit the dust. They were out of service for almost a week as the contractor could not get a hold of the part he needed at all. It just wasn't available. They also noted the quotes were sky high compared to what they used to be. And that, today, is the brief and the national intel. If you have intel you'd like to share, you can email us intel@bearindependent.com or use the contact us page at bearindependent.com. If you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, appreciate y'all. Have a blessed day. Beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Shalom. For everybody else, we'll have a sip of coffee and we'll talk about how to support our American-made small businesses. Patreon. Patreon is the best $5 you can spend on the internet. I do a Give Me Your Questions post every month, and one of y'all said, "Hey, Bear, can you do a video on the SHTF clinic? Can you be the first? Because nobody has done this, and it seems like you're the guy for the job." So I sat down yesterday to do that video, and after 4 parts to the SHTF clinic series that we'll post on Patreon, I'd say I'm about a third done with what I want to cover. And it's whiteboard classroom setting, showing references, explaining protocols, etc., on how to set up an SHTF clinic. In my experience, in my opinion. Now, I've done a bit of research too. I don't see anybody else talking about that except for when Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness touches on it occasionally, the concept of your SHTF clinic. Well, I'm laying out what the logistics look like for that, what the protocols should be, what the staffing looks like, what resources you need, what the layout of the building or buildings or co-opted buildings or field tents should be, what a casualty collection point is, how that works, ruck truck house, all of that stuff, TCCC, TECC, EMR, EMT, AEMT, paramedic, TACP, blah, blah, blah. So that's coming on Patreon, and that gives you an idea of the type of stuff we talk about on Patreon, and it is user-generated content. Y'all ask me, and then I respond. And so there's incredible value there. It's $5 per month, $5 per month. And I know many people don't have $5, and so if you don't, share the YouTube shows, please. Leave a comment. That helps us in the algorithm. Hit the thumbs up button. That helps us as well. For those that do have $5 a month and would like to be better prepared today than they were yesterday, you can visit the link in the description of every video and live stream. Come see us on Patreon. Additionally, today, I have to select the winner for the chess rig giveaway. Epic loot box, $1,100 retail value, which, by the way, I bought that stuff out of my pocket for y'all. It wasn't given to me. Hey, Bear, talk about my stuff so you can give it away. Nope. Oh, except Covert Threads, awesome company. They make awesome socks. Covert Threads said, "Hey, Bear, we love what you're all about. When you give that chest rig away, find out what size foots they got so we can send them some socks as well." I was like, badass. And so if you're a human being who's got foots and you need some socks, check out Covert Threads. Great company, owned by a former Marine. Excellent quality socks. I'm wearing a pair right now. So that's what's going on Patreon currently. Refuge Medical, it's the last day of the National Preparedness Month promo. I told you there's a handful of ARCs and SOBs left. And after that, that'll be existing inventory until October, the end of October. Everything else is in stock. The Bearfac 3.0 is in stock. This is it. There are many like it, but this one is mine. It's about this big. It's got everything you need to work the March algorithm, right? So the outside gives you your durability and your portability. You can mount it on a belt, Molly Pals webbing compatible. Guaranteed forever. If you break this, I will replace it at no cost to you, no questions asked. We make first aid kits that your grandchildren can inherit, not some Chinesium bullshit, okay? Guaranteed forever. Pressure tested and refined by United States Special Forces. The inner pops out of the outer so that your kit isn't stuck to your body, so you can get it out where you need it. And as you can see, made in the USA, proudly made in the USA. We are huge proponents of American manufacturing. We have 3 sew shops now. The way this works, you grab this red tab, pop it, it comes open. You've got your pressure bandage, your tape, your Sharpie, your tourniquet, your gloves. In the back here in the stack, we've got our shears, a burn tech dressing, 5x9 gauze pads, a nasal pharyngeal airway, and 2 chest seals. And then in the bottom down here, for wound packing, I've got my quick clot rolled gauze for wound packing. And then I've got my trauma pack, and my trauma pack has got my survival blanket, my compressed gauze, my rolled gauze, my triangle bandage, fold flat duct tape, an eye shield, an eye pad, 2x2s, 4x4s, 5x9s, okay? If you use this kit to save a life, or any of our kits to save a life, we will replace whatever components you used at no cost to you. No questions asked. If you break it, we'll replace it. The value in this kit is that we know what needs to be in a first aid kit. You might not. So we put that together in the bare fact. This is a one and done for you. Whether you drive a minivan or an MRAP, this is a one and done for you, okay?
Tell them one more time where to find it.
RefugeMedical.com, and your promo code for free shipping is Bear Nation. Get your free shipping on everything in the store. And again, you'll see details on National Preparedness Month there. $200, you spend $200 or more, you get a free soft tee tourniquet, which means if you buy a Bear Fac, you get a free soft tee tourniquet, just like I've got one bungeed onto the side of my kit right here. So I've got a primary tourniquet on the outside of the kit. You buy a Bear Fac or an ARC or an SOB or a bare minimum, you get a free soft tee tourniquet with it, $200 or more.
You just can't do the free promo and the free shipping.
You can't do the free promo and the free shipping on the same order. So, spend $400 or more, you get a free Boo Boo 2.0 kit, and it's not your grandpa's Boo Boo kit. It's got like steri strips for wound closure. It's got compression bandage. We got ridiculed for not having Band-Aids in our kits, so we made a Boo Boo kit with Band-Aids in it in case Susie skins her knee when she falls off her bike. But it's our kit, so we made a badass Boo Boo kit. So $400 or more, you get a badass Boo Boo kit. $500 or more, you get a pocket. And the pocket, I got one in my pocket because it's designed to be in your pocket. It's this big. It weighs as much less than the pocket, weighs less than one loaded AR magazine. Made in the United States of America. Pop this open, and I've got decompression needle. There's usually a Sharpie in here as well. I've got 2 chest seals, fold flat duct tape, nasal pharyngeal airway, a flat compression bandage, combat gauze, North American Rescue gloves, like legit quick clot combat gauze, and compressed gauze for wound packing in my pocket, ready to go. Well, Bear, what do you need that for? Well, I don't know about y'all who are out there concealed carrying and EDCing, but if you have a way to make holes, you need a way to plug holes. Additionally, if you're going to be a cool guy with a medic patch on your jacket, you need to have some equipment to actually do medic stuff with. So that's the pocket. You spend $500 or more, you get a free pocket. Now, the last thing I want to talk about at Refuge Medical is the OX, the OSHA compliant kit.
And everything is HSA, FSA.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you, Liberty.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
People like that.
Everything is
Everything
HSA and FSA eligible. And so if you have a flexible spending account or a health savings account, you can use that at refugemedical.com. This is the OSHA compliance kit. Why do we make this? And this is the advanced, okay? This is under $300. This case This case is made in America. It's made in Texas by a company called Condition 1 Cases. And Condition 1 tests their stuff to the same exact standards that Pelican does, except Pelican makes their stuff elsewhere. This is made in America, here in Texas. You break it, I'll replace it at no cost to you, okay? We made an OSHA kit because OSHA kits suck. Every other OSHA kit on the market sucks. I have had people, unfortunately, on major job sites that I've been on, they've died. Not a fan of that. I don't like it when good people die. I like it a lot when bad people die, but I don't like it when good people die. So we made an actual first aid kit that should be in every work truck, should be in every school bus, every commercial kitchen, every steel fabrication shop, on every logging truck. Anywhere you need an OSHA first aid kit, this is the one you need, okay? This is a real first aid kit in a real durable case. You can hang a peg in the wall and hang it on the wall next to your fire extinguisher.
We have them as add-ons.
And we have a bracket as an add-on. You can hang this thing on the wall next to your fire extinguisher, and here's your first aid kit. Now, you pop this open. This sucker is jam-packed full of stuff. Refuge, Ox Advanced. This kit exceeds the specifications for an OSHA Class A and Class B first aid kit. Band-aids, medical tape, CPR pocket resuscitator mask, burn dressings, eye shields, eye wash, first aid guide, gloves, shears, SAM splints, orange soft T tourniquet right here, which, by the way, if you are in an industry that has a high incidence of amputation and laceration, you are required by 1 January 23 that you must have a committee on TCCC approved windlass tourniquet in your first aid kit, and your company must train you in its use. And a lot of the other first aid kits that are out there that have a tourniquet in them, they have a venous tourniquet, which is a stretchy piece of rubber which is used for starting an IV. If you use that on somebody who is bleeding to death, they will die. That is gross negligence. So if you're the safety guy at your company and you bought those as tourniquets for your guys, not only will they die, you will be sued out of existence. So, a real Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet. A trauma pack. It's got everything that I just showed you in the bare fac in it. A trauma pack. Vented chest seals, nasopharyngeal airway, hypothermia blanket, splinter remover, cold packs, compressed gauze, 3x3s, 5x9 gauze pads, triangle bandages, ace bandages, mini duct tape, glucose gel, oral rehydration salts, antidiarrheals, Benadryl, triple antibiotic, antiseptic towelettes, gel packets, burn gel packets, and hand sanitizer. And if you use any of the stuff that's in it right here for replacement components, email sales@refugemedical.com. This is a real first aid kit for people that do real work. Freaking don't die, Bear Nation. That's why we make these things. They're also really affordable. If you look at some of those OSHA compliance kits that are sold at like Grainger and Fastenal and other companies like that, they are garbage. And they're expensive. There's a real kit under $300 that with the right training will save somebody's life. 100%. And so maybe your motivation is, I love my people, I don't want them to die, and I would hope that it is. Good. There should be an ox in every vehicle. There should be an ox on every job site. If you got a big job site, the OSHA regulation is that there has to be one within 4 minutes of wherever somebody is working, within 4 minutes. And I'll tell you this, that's a bullshit rule because you will bleed to death in 2 from your femoral artery. So really it needs to be within a minute of where anybody's working because you got 90 seconds to 120 seconds before you pass out and die from a femoral artery bleed. So maybe your motivation is I want to keep my people alive, and I hope that's it. Or maybe your motivation is, I want to keep my company alive and I don't want to get sued out of existence when one of my guys dies on my job site and I'm charged with gross negligence because the first aid kit that I got is bullshit. Because if I was an attorney, I could make that case in a heartbeat. Don't let me be the expert witness on the stand against your gay ass, little stretchy band tourniquet thing. That will kill people. That is not what it's for. So all that stuff is going on at refugemedical.com today. Last day of the National Preparedness Month promo. Free shipping is Bear Nation. You can use that code. And we appreciate your support for our American-made small businesses. Best first aid kits on planet Earth, bar none. Refuge training. We've got some dates left. There's some limited availability in Dallas and Waco. And that's going to do it for public tour dates for the year. And so if you need to get trained, Dallas, Texas, Waco, Texas, come to class. You need to know how to do this stuff. And it is not death by PowerPoint. We teach you, and you do it reps and sets with your hands, how to apply tourniquets to yourself and to others, all over your body, under stress, well, all over your limbs. You use tourniquets on extremities. Come to class. We teach you wound packing in your junctional areas using hemostatics and compressed gauze, and you actually pack wounds. We teach you tension pneumothorax. We teach you how to maintain an airway, chin lift, jaw thrust, nasopharyngeal airway. Teach you about chest seals and punctures to the pleural space. CPR and AED in Responder 2. Situational awareness in Responder 1. How to make a damn 911 phone call, which a lot of people don't understand. What information you need to convey. Responder 2 also includes an intro to scenario-based training, which is you have to work a car wreck with your kit. Yeah. Head injuries, hypothermia, all these things are addressed just in Responder 1 and Responder 2. It's a day. One day of your life. You will walk out of that class with more information. You will be better equipped to treat grievous injury than you ever were before. And then Responder 3, it builds on top of all of that, scenario-based force-on-force training, where you have to do TACMED, civilian TACMED, tactical medicine, TECC, tactical emergency casualty care, using blue guns, shooting at each other, shooting at us shooting at you. CASEVAC is a huge one. There's also a section there on active shooter response. That's a big deal in today's day and age. It's literally priceless training. Carl from Tactical Rifleman and Imri from Prime Combat Training attended the class in Waco we did the last time, and they felt the need to speak to the class, and they told them, this is literally, so you got retired Special Forces, retired U.S. Special Forces, and retired Israeli Special Forces saying to our class, this is literally the best civilian training that we're aware of. In the entire world, we don't know another company that's training civilians to this level. This is incredible. You should be honored to be here. Dude, that's high praise from some men that know what they're talking about, right? And so if you don't know how to use your kit, come to class, refugetraining.com. Or if you're a construction company that needs to order some ox kits and you have to train your people, email us, sales@refugetraining.com. We do private classes all over the country. The trainer guys just got back from one, actually. And in fact, the construction company was like, their guys thought it was going to be another, OSHA mandated 4-hour safety class. And they were kind of walking in like, this is going to suck. And by the end of the class, we're like, dude, this was freaking amazing. Like, this was awesome. When do we get to do this again? Thank you so much for teaching us. It is not death by PowerPoint. Like, it is our job to make sure that you leave that class capable to save somebody's life, possibly your own. So that's refugetraining.com. And lastly, but certainly not least, is Grindstone Ministries. There's a lot going on in Florida right now with Hurricane Ian, and Grindstone is a disaster relief ministry. People have been asking, hey, are you going? Hey, are we going? What are we doing? The short answer is I don't know yet. We have people who are in the area who are reporting back to us, and we will very likely at a minimum coordinate an effort of people from the Bear Nation to go and assist. I don't know yet if it will be a full-blown deployment by Grindstone because I don't know yet what exactly we're looking at. The water needs to recede. We need to get some eyes on the damage, and we need to start putting together a scope of work. When that happens, if you are not signed up at Grindstone Ministries for the email alerts, you will not know. So if you want to be in any way involved in what we're doing, you need to go to grindstoneministries.com, sign up for the email alerts, and that's how we will convey information as to what a deployment to Hurricane Ian affected areas looks like. Additionally, born out of Grindstone is Caleb House, which is our second ministry. Caleb House is a restoration facility for victims of juvenile sex trafficking and sexual assault. And we have a couple dozen people in our care right now. And we would not be able to go rescue them and restore them if it wasn't for y'all. So thank you for supporting us in doing that, because we would be dead in the water without you. Somebody asked me on the Patreon live stream last night, what is the most impactful thing that you've done with Grindstone in the last year? And without even thinking about it, it's rescuing these souls. And our goal is to restore them. Our program has no time limit on it because some of these children that we're dealing with are still in diapers. Because the depths of sexual perversion know no limits. And I'm not going to tell a little tiny kiddo, hey, listen, you got 12 months to get your shit together, and then you're back out on the streets. And so these people are with us until they learn how to spread their wings and fly again. And it is our goal to break generational curses and put a biblical covering over widows and orphans. And to meet all of their needs, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, educational needs, to put them back together again. So we can break that generational curse so they can get on with their life and be restored. And we can't do that without y'all. So thank you for supporting us with Caleb House. It is becoming very quickly my life's work. And it is my goal to rescue as many of these kiddos as I can and to put as many assholes behind bars as I can. We will have Caleb House shirts, long sleeves, hoodies coming. We got a little saying around here: save the good ones, kill the bad ones, serve the Father. And that will be on the Caleb House shirts. And it will be expensive because the juice ain't worth the squeeze if we raise $4 per t-shirt to help build Caleb House. Right now, we've always just been flying by the seat of our pants. Go do good stuff, the Father will handle the rest. Well, we've got a couple dozen people in our care, and we don't even have the care facility built yet. So that's been fun. Now we're in process, but it's not something that happens overnight. So thank you to everybody who has prayed over Caleb House. Thank you to everybody who has provided material. Thank you to everybody who has donated. We can't do it without you. You boys and girls are freaking badass, and I love you. That's the brief for today. Y'all have a blessed day of prep and a blessed Sabbath. Shalom.